Okay, so hello Robert. I'm
Hey, how are you doing?
super happy to be host here on my YouTube, on my website, because I know you are the one of the greatest futurists and technologists that we have in our community. So thanks for taking your time to speaking with me.
Thank you.
Uh, um, I just want to start with a question I ask everyone. I know that this time it can be quite useless, but can you introduce yourself to my readers if the few people that still don't know you?
Yeah, I've been, let's go all the way back. I grew up in Silicon Valley. My dad was an engineer here and moved us here in 1971. And all my life, I've been in love with new things, partly because Apple Computer started about a mile from my house. And I had an Apple II in 1977, one of the first ones. And I turned that into a career. I got a tour of Apple back when I was in junior high, right? When it was a building, one or three buildings. I forget how many buildings, but it was a small little place back then, right? It was a startup. And I watched it grow up. And as it grew up and I grew up, I got into computers, and all my friends did, right? Some of them went to work at gaming companies. Some of them went to work at Microsoft before I got there, and the tech industry is all around me. Right, even here, I live in Campbell, California. I could walk to Netflix's headquarters. Right, next door is an Apple engineer. Behind me is a software engineer. And on that side is a network engineer. Across the street is a security engineer. Right, so. I'm fortunate to be in Silicon Valley to see the world, and I turned that into a really interesting career because blogging came along, and my wife and I—that's my wife
Hey, nice
back
to
there.
meet you.
Yeah. Nice meeting you. We work in conferences, and back in the '90s, we ran conferences. I worked at a computer programming magazine called Visual Basic Programmers Journal. And around that time, blogging came along at the end of the of the 90s. And I started blogging, and that started getting me invited to do weird things, from going to a Super Bowl party at Steve Wozniak's house to, being on an aircraft carrier. And that gave me the opportunity to see a lot of things before anybody else. I was the first one to see Siri. I was the first one to see Flipboard. I was the 79th user of Instagram, right? So I was early on a lot of things. Uber was literally invented in front of me in a Paris snowstorm at a conference I was going to, right? And so I was able to talk to people who were building things early and see them. And that got me into augmented reality because some of the companies I saw in Israel were building 3D sensors. Well, now that kind of technology is built into your iPhone,
Yeah,
right?
it's
With
amazing.
little, yeah, and getting better this year, right? We're going to get 300,000 points of data, which is really pretty stunning when you start looking at what the community is building. And I also interviewed like the founders of Matayo, who were putting monsters on the sides of skyscrapers and doing Lego boxes with augmented reality and stuff like that. So a lot of fun stuff happening. And yeah, I wrote a blog since 2000 about the tech industry and reported on many new companies and interviewed many new people. And that got me a job in 2003 at Microsoft. And while at Microsoft, I interviewed 600 people from the janitor to Bill Gates, and understood how a big company really works and did strategy there. And then I left and went to a small little startup and a media startup and learned that. And then I went to Fast Company magazine. And then I ended up at Rackspace for 7 years, which is a big cloud computing company that was competing with Amazon. So a lot of years, a lot of things. So I got to see a lot of things, and I should show you what my Twitter looks like. I was the number one Twitter user for the
Wow.
first. 2 years of its life. So I've been using Twitter since the early days, and I get to watch the entire industry, from investors to people who build autonomous vehicles to people who are building AI. We could talk about that, to just people in augmented reality and virtual reality, right? So I can watch the entire industry and the entire world. I mean, I have all the world's news right here, right?
Yeah, it's impressive. Lots of news. I also have to thank you for the list of Infinite Retina that you have created on Twitter. So if other people like me use Twitter also to work in AR and VR, Robert and Irena has made with their account that is the Infinite Retina, some very well-made lists of people in AR and VR divided for categories. So thanks, because
Yeah.
they've been
And
super useful for me.
what I just showed you in TweetDeck, they're all lists. So you can build your own TweetDeck out of other people's lists. And I have all the lists that you're seeing here are public, right? So you can have the exact same screen and watch the world go by and know exactly what everybody's doing in various things like computer vision or tech. I have a list of 2,000 tech journalists, right? So I can see everything happening in the world in one screen.
Yeah,
And that's leading to some interesting reading. I've been doing a lot of reading about AI lately. This NPT-3, which came out of OpenAI, is getting a lot of people excited. We could talk about that today. And autonomous cars. I have a Tesla, so I talked to a lot of people about Tesla, and I had the first ride in the first Tesla with Elon Musk, right?
really?
So yeah, I had a ride
Wow.
before his best friend got a ride because we were racing. And that was in Engadget and Gizmodo. That was a big deal. And so, yeah, I've been watching these companies for a long time, the big ones. And then there's all these new small ones. I have a list of 1,800 companies in augmented reality and virtual reality. And so I'm watching that whole space. And I have a list of companies in AI that are really interesting. I mean, Brian Rommel this morning shared one that's doing voicing. And somebody posted a whole couple of startups that he's using to build virtual movies, completely AI movies, right?
Yeah.
And they're crappy today, but you started going, if they're crappy today, in 3 years they're going to be pretty good, and in 10 years they're going to be like as good as human ones, right? And in 20 years they're going to be better than human ones. So you start thinking about, oh, is there a new movie company coming in 20 years? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. So thanks for this long story. It's super interesting. You had really lots of adventures in this world. It's
Yeah.
I remember that we also had a talk like 1 year ago in private, so it was not live stream on YouTube. I guess in 1 year, lots of things have changed, especially because this 2020 has been a pretty complicated year. So,
We could call it shitty.
yeah, okay, you said the right word. So, how do you see it? Since I work especially in XR, but you can also talk about related technologies like AI or 5G or whatever, because we know that every technology is linked to the other. So, how do you think that the XR ecosystem is changed in these last 12 months?
In a way, a lot of people have been asking me, does the COVID virus help VR or hurt it? And it has done both. It took a lot of wealth away from people, so now they're not very willing to buy new toys, right? So there's that. But it has gotten everybody up to date. My school teachers are teaching classes on Zoom. That if you told me in January that my school teachers would all be using Zoom by the summertime, I would have said you're crazy. How are you going to do that, right? But here we are. They've all gotten caught up. Everybody in society now knows how to use Google Meet or Zoom or Skype to do video conferencing, or Facebook Messenger to do video, because that's how you talk with your family now. If you don't know how to do that, you're not keeping in touch with your friends and family, right? So there's that. we've also seen the industry get cleaned out of weak ideas. Some companies have gone out of business or gotten bought up. Focals by North went to Google. The industry is now cleaned up, and I call it's like farming. The farm has been plowed, right? The farm is ready now for seeds and for new things. And it's created the need for new ways to communicate, because as beautiful as you are in this little 2D box, it's not very satisfying. We can't really design a new building together. We can't design a new car. We can't really travel this way. It's not satisfying in a whole lot of ways. And so and we can't really educate each other this way. We can. I can learn a little bit from a 2D video, but if you take me into 3D and show me a chemical structure, I learn it really, really fast, right? And so that's why, augmented reality and virtual reality are really interesting to me, because our brains think in 3D. And right now we're being forced to go to 2D to communicate and learn. And we are already talking about Zoom makes people tired. I mean, Miriam's on Zoom like 9 times a day, right? And she says she is tired. Right, Miriam?
Huh?
Are you tired of Zoom?
Well, you get Zoom fatigue, right?
Zoom fatigue.
Everyone insists on being on video, and you just don't know where to look at. And
yeah, you don't know where to look because everybody's looking. Like my camera's above you, so
Yeah.
am I supposed to look at you or look at the camera, right? And we learn we're supposed to look at the camera, but most people don't. And so our mind has to constantly think about, are you paying attention to me? Are you looking at Twitter down on the screen, right? Blah, 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 right? And it causes this fatigue that people are talking about. You and I have VR. We can go in and start playing Rec Room together and play Frisbee or shooting or just hanging out in 3D. And it feels like, in fact, in the VR industry, we call it presence, right? We get to feel present with you. We feel like you're with us. So I can high five you. I can hand you things, right? We're on Zoom call or on a Google Meet call. I can't do any. Yeah, I can't. There's like a wall between us, and we can sort of go up to the wall and touch the wall, but I can't really touch you. And in VR, we can touch each other. We can throw Frisbee at each other. We can shoot each other. We can walk around a chemical structure in a program called Nano. And that's really amazing. I walked around the virus with a scientist, and they showed me how the thing works and how it attaches to the human body. And you can see it, it's as big as a football field. You can actually walk around the chemical structures of it and talk about how drugs would attack it or how vaccines would attack it. And in an hour, I learned more than I would learn in a college chemistry class, right? So it's the field has been plowed, and some of us have it already. But let's be honest, on Oculus Quest, I can't read text in it. I can't do what she's doing. It's too hard to read text. Yeah. It's great for playing Beat Saber or looking at a chemical structure a little bit, but that's after half an hour, our mind's like, I need to get out of here, right?
Yeah.
And we have some new VR devices coming. Right? Right. So, I ordered the HP G2, and Oculus Quest is going to announce something in September, and I'm hearing it's a 4K screen inside. And so you start thinking about 4K instead of 1K screens. Well, now I can read text, right? And if there's an eye sensor in there, which is unclear, now we can do all sorts of foveated rendering to make the polygon count appear higher than it is, right? And we can start getting new kinds of user interfaces. So there's that. And then in 2 years, we're going to see Apple enter the market with a pair of glasses, and they're testing it already. And so I'm starting to hear all sorts of things, and so is the media, right? Every week it seems like a new patent gets released from Apple or a new rumor, right?
Yeah.
And it's clear they're going after eyeglasses. They're going after, glasses that are correct. 60% of humans have to wear corrective lenses like I do. So if they can disrupt that market, that's a pretty sizable market.
So, to people that always make me this complaint, so they say, "Yeah, you are a VR enthusiast," because among my friends, they are not not my people in the VR communities, but my old friends from school, etc. They don't work even in computer field, so they are not IT people. I am so the VR guy, the crazy guy, the forecast, this future with
Yeah.
everyone we have glasses. Um, Among these people, they also ask me, so what VR is doing now that there is the pandemic? So my answer is that it is improving, where there is a bit more awareness, but of course, the fact that companies can't invest in it because there is crisis, the fact that the devices are not ready, uh, are causing it not to explode. So what
Yeah.
do you instead answer to them? So
No,
is
I'd
there
say the
something
same
else?
thing. I say the same thing. My friends are saying exactly the same thing even here. I mean, Miriam doesn't use it, you know. She's my test case. you know, and we talk about it, right? Because she's running a conference with tens of thousands of people coming. How many of them have VR? Very few. VMware has a spatial computing division, right, which is doing all sorts of research and building management systems and stuff like that for VR and AR. And they're seeing some business because there's companies like Walmart bought 17,000 VR headsets to do training, right? And there's many people who are doing training now in VR. We talked to auto manufacturers who virtualize their entire factory floor. So I can go into VR and learn how to do a specific new job. I can try it 30 times, get good at it, and then take a test and get certified to go on the floor and do the real job, right? And once you're in VR, you really understand how to do the job. But that's not consumer, and the Oculus Quest, which is a $400, two of them back there. The Oculus Quest is a $400 standalone VR headset from Facebook. And I think that's the best product of the last 18 months. I think that's going to be a very defining product. It's like when I got the BlackBerry mobile device first. That was a defining product on some things I wanted to do with mobile devices forever. And today my iPhone does, that kind of texting and that kind of communication. But it's only sold 1 million units, right?
Yeah.
Which to me and you is a pretty important thing. But to the normal world, I mean, Apple sells 200 million phones a quarter, right?
Wow.
So, and Apple's only 8% of the market, right? So phones sell almost 1 billion a quarter, right? And when you start thinking of that, then you need to get into tens of millions of units per year before anybody really gets excited, right? Hollywood is not going to make a lot of movies for VR unless you get 10 million units. And gaming companies like EA or whatever are not going to get real excited about building video games unless there's 10 million units in the market, right? So we haven't yet crossed that 10 million mark yet. I expect that next year when this new Quest comes out, that will help get there. But I think it still is going to take an Apple to come in the market with a device. And the problem is Apple's going after eyeglasses. They're not going after VR, right? So, and everybody's going to aim at eyeglasses eventually. Even Facebook's strategy internally, I've seen their strategy documents for 4 years. They're aiming at glasses because they know that consumers want to wear something like this. They don't want to wear a big, black, ugly thing, right? And who's going to buy a HoloLens and wear that? No, only us nerds, right?
Yeah, I will buy
Miriam's
it.
not, right? Normal people come over to my house and go, no, I'm not wearing that,
Yeah,
So,
that's right. So, but as you said, that is VR is doing well now in the enterprise for consumers, not so much. And I've read like today a report by IDC that says that next year the market in VR for the enterprise will go
yes,
further, will be bigger than the one for consumer. So I think that this is a very important item. So it means that VR is slowly becoming something for the enterprise. Do you think that it is the final trend? So in the end, most
uh,
of
I
VR.
when I worked at Microsoft, I went and talked to the phone team, right?
Okay.
Because I'm interested in new stuff, and I had the ability to go to everybody and talk to everybody about everything, right? And I was like, oh, phones are real interesting to me. I want a new phone. And so I went over there, and they were like, oh, phones are for the enterprise. The same thing, right? Phones are for the enterprise. That's who's going to buy these. The CTO is going to be in charge of buying 10,000 phones for, Caterpillar. and, and, and they were right until Steve Jobs proved they were wrong, right? And then everybody bought one at Apple Store and brought it to work and changed how phones were sold. And now almost all phones are consumer, but they're all being used at work. I
Yeah.
mean, Miriam works for VMware, right? They made her buy her own phone. So they don't even buy your phone anymore. The corporation says, go buy your own phone and pick what you want, and we don't care. We'll put our software on it, right? And then you can get text messaging and video conferencing on it, and a few other things, spreadsheets, Microsoft Office, right? And that's the attitude. The reason enterprise is still going to be ahead of consumer is because we're not small enough yet. And the consumer is not yet willing to go into a Best Buy or an Apple and buy it and take it to work. And I don't see that changing until 2023 when Apple really starts rolling in this market. So for the next 2-3 years, absolutely right. Enterprise is going to be bigger than consumer. But don't make the same mistake the phone team did of assuming that it's going to be that way for very long, because the consumer, when Apple turns on, me and you are going to buy Apple glasses and we're going to take them to our jobs, right? And we're going to start building software for them to do jobs and do work. And then the company is going to be forced to change to Apple again. So right now, yes, but I think actually next year you're going to see some consumer interest in VR because the headsets are going to get smaller, they're going to get lighter, they're going to get much sharper screens, and they're getting better cameras, which means they're going to do a lot more, particularly this mixed reality, right? Next year's Oculus Quest, I'm hearing, does hand tracking way better than the current Quest does, and does room tracking way better, and does object tracking. So like this mug, right? Rolling around, the AI now can see that this is a mug and can know the brand name and can tell you stuff on Amazon, right? And then can replace this mug with something fun, like a cartoon, right? We've seen that, right? We know it's possible because me and you, we have Magic Leaps and HoloLenses, and we're playing with this newer technology, and we know it's possible. Next year, the consumer's going to start seeing it, and the year after, the consumer's going to start buying it, right? So I think 2022 is a real key year. 2021 is a building year, and in ways, because of the virus, the whole world is going to be rebuilding its businesses, right? Because there's a lot of pain on the street right now.
Yeah, that's terrible moments. I see whatever is happening in the world, people dying. Even in Italy, we had some terrible months. Our thoughts goes to the people affected by the virus. It's been really, really bad. Talking about better things, I also appreciated what you've done with your last book. So you wrote a book The Infinite Retina, you showed it in the beginning. It is also very cool cover.
Yeah,
It's
there's
a big
pictures.
book,
Yeah,
and you speak about lots of topics. So tell us something about your book. So why have
yeah.
you decided to write it, and what people can find inside it?
Well, Irina and I, almost 2 years ago now, we're sitting down and doing sort of what I was showing you, looking at Twitter, looking at the business, talking to our friends, going to factories. I took a little tour in 2018 around America and went to a bunch of factories and talked to people and met with people at Target shopping, right? And we kept hearing some things were happening in society, right? 3D sensors were coming along and coming down in cost, right? And the iPhone right about that time got a 3D sensor in it, right? So we started thinking about, okay, what happens when 3D sensor keeps getting more capable, getting more points of data, getting better distance, right? And what does that mean for autonomous cars? What does that mean for robots? What does that mean for glasses? And we started thinking that through. And we started talking to factories who were buying more and more robots and automating more and more. One guy bragged to me that they just turned on their first cold storage warehouse, and it was completely robots, no humans. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy, right? What does that mean for jobs, right? Andrew Yang, who was a presidential candidate for a while, was talking about that, right? He was saying automation is coming and it's going to take away a lot of people's jobs. Well, he didn't know about the virus was going to take away all the jobs. But the automation forces are still happening, right? Warehouses are still hiring more or building more and more robots to move products around, right? And retail stores are getting more and more automation, right? You go to McDonald's now and they have a sign where you order the Big Mac. You don't talk to a human being anymore, right? So jobs are starting to shift in the world because of these. And so we were hearing for years about these billions of dollars that Facebook and Apple were spending and hiring all sorts of really high-end engineers to do the augmented reality glasses. And so we started understanding what that was about. So all that came in, and this book is about how spatial computing, which is robots, autonomous cars, new kinds of virtual beings, and humans can move around computing, right? Because that's very different than how we used to compute on a piece of glass, right? We're not moving around the computing here.
Yeah.
In a HoloLens, we're actually moving around the computing. The computing is happening on the walls, on the screens, on the tables, right? And we started seeing 7 industries that would be radically changed by this, right? From fintech to transportation to retail to manufacturing to education and on. There's 7 industries, and that's what the book is about. The 7 industries that are going to be changed by this technology and how it's already being changed, how a retail store is already changing, how a factory floor is already changing, right?
Cool. I was found very interesting because sometimes when there are this kind of books about AR and VR and related technologies, they usually talk about AI, 5G, but you also talk about autonomous cars, 3D printers. So,
Yeah.
why do you decide? Have you decided to add also this technology? So why are they connected to AR and VR?
Because the autonomous car has a LiDAR. Some of them have a LiDAR on the top, which is a spinning set of 80 lasers, which makes a 3D image of the world,
Yeah.
right? Well, a HoloLens does the same thing with these 4 cameras on the front. It makes a 3D image of the real world. So the technology is very, very similar. Might not be the same, an autonomous car engineer will say, oh, but my code does this and this and this, and is looking for this and this and this. And the AR guy is like, but we don't have much battery, so we can't do what the autonomous car guy does. But they are very similar engineers. In fact, the engineers are switching. You're seeing on LinkedIn somebody leaving an autonomous car company and then going to an augmented reality company or back and forth, because the technology is very similar and the way of thinking about the world and about computing is very similar. So we started seeing 3D sensors were changing on cars and on glasses, right? And on the robots. The robots are using LiDAR or cameras as well to see the 3D world. And the AI is very similar that's being developed to see, right? The AI now, cameras in 3 years are going to see this cup and know what kind of cup it is, right? Or if it's a Coca-Cola can, it's going to know it's a Coca-Cola can, right? And it's going to recognize that immediately. Well, that's self-driving car is doing that at a pretty fast rate right now. My Tesla now sees garbage cans by the road and says, "Oh, that's a garbage can," right?
Yeah.
And sees orange cones and says, "Oh, that's an orange cone." It sees a pedestrian and says, "Oh, that's a pedestrian." A dog, "Oh, that's a dog." It's different than a pedestrian, right? And the AI is categorizing those, and the training costs. And that's where GPT-3, this new thing from OpenAI came out, and all sorts of people on Twitter are doing all sorts of crazy stuff, from writing code to having movies made, right? The training costs of AI is coming down exponentially, right? And so today, training, like you could take this video in real soon, in fact, probably today, put a square around it, and then tag it in live video. That 10 years ago was impossible. 2 years ago, it cost $100,000. Today, it costs $1, right?
Yeah.
So the costs are coming way, way, way down. And the ease of training is going way, way, way up, right? And so we're seeing new systems evolving. And that's what I look at how the underlying technology trends are affecting these products, right? And I won't be shocked if in 3 years Elon Musk has a pair of glasses for the car, right?
Do you mean for VR to entertain yourself while you are in the car?
For everything, not just for everything. To see the data set that the car is collecting, because he has 1 million cars collecting data on the world. He's going to kill Apple and Google Maps in 2 years, at least in places where there's a lot of Tesla cars, like Silicon Valley. Wow. Yesterday, I drove to pick up some pies. There was 5 Teslas around me on the freeway. So you start thinking that way. It's like each car has 8 cameras on it. Each car has an AI chip in it. Each car is able to upload to a cloud computing system in the sky. Oh, there's a pothole up ahead. Turn into lane number 2. Everybody goes to lane number 2, right?
Yeah.
And that's why 5G is important, because if we can have imaging, like massive data sets imaged by the car in front of you, pass to the other cars, then you can really solve every self-driving problem. Right now, my Tesla doesn't see potholes, for instance, and it doesn't see objects in road. Like I almost hit a bucket in the road the other day, right? It was rolling around. Somebody dropped a bucket of paint off their truck. My car doesn't see that real well, so I have to assist it, and drive around it. Well, in 3 years, that bucket's going to be imaged by somebody in front of me, and every car will move over automatically to lane 4 and avoid the bucket, right? 5G is going to enable that.
Wow, that's incredible. So do you think that Tesla will be able to create the AR cloud? Because I wasn't considering it.
Yes, that's right. $3,500 for the new one, and this one costs $2,500. We forget the technology industry always makes things really, really cheap over time. I mean, Steve Wozniak in 1989 showed me his first color printer, and it cost $45,000. It was a dye sublimation color printer, and next to it, he had a 400 megabyte RAM drive for Photoshop 1.0, and that was also $45,000. So he spent $90,000 on his computer to run Photoshop 1.0, right? And today, an iPhone has like 100 times more RAM, maybe 1,000, and my $70 printer is way better at printing color and printing photos and printing documents and faster than that $45,000 printer was. It's $70, right? Since '89 to today, that's 20 years. So if you can't afford this today, just stay alive 20 years. It'll be $50, right? And that's the world I start thinking about. It's like, how does the price curve come down? How does the training curve come down? How does the costs of everything come down? And we can see it's starting to hit where the consumer is going to get interested in it. I was a little early because I get excited. I'm like Elon Musk. I say something takes a year, it really takes 5. Because I know I already have it, right? I want everybody else to get it.
Yeah.
I forget that normal people like Miriam don't like big, ugly things that cost $2,500 that mostly people wait until it's cheap and small, right? All right, so 5 years.
Yeah, so but since you have this vision about all the technologies together, so how do you envision the city of the future in like 5, 10, 20 years? So
the what of the future?
The cities of the future, where we will live with autonomous cars, AR, VR, 6G.
We visited at MIT Media Lab, they have a model of cities. And they start asking the computer, what if we got rid of all parking lots, right? Because if and you're seeing this with COVID, that cities are starting to close down their streets so the restaurants can have space to eat. Because now you can't eat inside the restaurant, so you put the restaurant outside on the street. We're seeing that in many cities in America. And so they're starting to close down the streets, right? Maybe they don't reopen them up because they're actually pretty nice to go and walk around when there's no cars in the streets, and bikes are going by, and it's a nice street. You know this in Europe, cities without cars are much nicer, and if you have a bike-centric culture in a city, it makes a much nicer city. I really enjoyed going to Denmark or Amsterdam, right? Because of that, because you could bike everywhere. You didn't need to take your car everywhere. That's not true in America, right? But at MIT, they started doing things like take away all the parking structures because an autonomous car can go into a city, drop people off, and then go outside the city and park and charge or go pick somebody else up and make some money and become useful, right? And that's one thing in our book, we talk about the economics of transportation is about to radically change. And here's why. My wife's Toyota, right? It costs $45,000. It costs about $2 an hour to pay the loan on the car and buy tires and oil changes and gas and all that, right? When you add up all the costs of a driving month, it comes to $2 an hour. But you add a driver to that car, like an Uber or a Lyft or a Didi or whatever, or a taxi. All of a sudden that car becomes $20 an hour, at least here in San Francisco, 14 maybe in other places, right? But it's still, the human increases the cost per hour of the car more than the car costs, right? Way more. And so when a self-driving car comes, it's going to cost $2, $3 an hour. And all of a sudden taxi drivers and truck drivers and all sorts of people lose their jobs. That's the downside. On the upside, we don't have deaths as high a rate. And we have more efficient cars because autonomous cars can be much more efficient than human-driven ones. And we have much cheaper transportation. Wholesale cost of transportation is $3 an hour then instead of 15 to 20, right? And that radically changes what we use transportation for. It already is. We're starting to order things from the grocery store because transportation is coming down in cost. Wait until a robot delivers your groceries. Now you're going to really use it because it's going to be really cheap to get something transported. Right now, it still costs $10 to get a meal from my favorite barbecue place delivered, right? So I still argue, do I go pick it up or do I get it delivered? When a robot does it, it's going to go from 10 to 2. And when it's 2, I'm never going to argue with myself about going and picking up a barbecue, right? I'm just going to have a robot deliver it, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And what about people? Will people have AR and VR glasses on their face all the time, or
Yeah.
it is just a dream?
No, it's not just a dream. People resist me all the time. I'm not going to wear glasses. I'm like, well, I already have to wear glasses first of all. By the way, these glasses cost $1,500. They have hyper thin lenses. They have the best coatings and they're titanium frames, right? They're the best. Most people spend about $400, $500, and then insurance often pays. So the cost of glasses usually from around $300, $400 at the low end to $1,500 for high end, right? What's coming is Apple's glasses or Nreals or Magic Leaps or whoever makes the glasses coming soon. Facebook is building them. Will do what these do, but they'll let me see at night without turning on the lights. They'll remember where I left my keys. They'll let me say, hey, Siri, I need an Uber ride. And an Uber will just show up, right, in the air, right? It'll let me say, hey, Siri, I want to watch CNN. A video screen just shows up right here, right? Or, hey, Siri, answer Anthony back and say, I'll be on a show in 10 minutes, right? And I'll just be able to walk around and compute this way. And once that happens, everybody gets it. Because I'll be sitting next to you at a NASCAR race and go, hey, I'm watching the race. You want to see what it looks like here? Right? And the guy is gonna go, shit, man, those are cool. And they'll get them. If you're in business, I'm going to run the factory floor on them, right? Once that happens, everybody on the factory floor has to get them because it's a working issue. How are you going to control the machine if you don't have the glasses on? Well, the machine and the glasses are going to work together, right? If I'm in the boardroom, Susie Borders showed me this, that she can show me data in a new way where I can understand the data and I can walk around a retail store and see the dwell times on the floor. She's like, why are you looking at spreadsheets in the future, right? Why are you looking at your actual sales or actual, stress points on a cup? After you do 20 drop tests, why don't you look at the stress points on the cup? Why are you looking at a spreadsheet of that data, right? It's a lot easier to see it on the cup. Once I have that, if you refuse to wear it, you're going to get fired because I'm going to beat you at business every day. I'm going to tell the boss this guy's not doing his job. Look, I have the data. Here, put the glasses on. Right?
Yeah, of course it will. We will like forced to have the glass.
And that's all the fantastic super science fiction stuff. The Apple engineers I've talked to say these lenses are 25% bad. That most people who buy corrective lenses don't get the lenses aligned properly to their eyes because somebody didn't take the measurement properly, or the factory that put the lenses in the frame didn't align them properly, or they didn't even get you the right prescription. By the way, they also say there's people in the world whose prescription changes every day.
What?
Depending on how much sodium they had, how much exercise they had, how much sleep they had, right? And so these should be changing every day with your eyes. And they don't because they're physical. Apples are going to change to your eyes and make your eyes better. So the second you put on the Apple glasses, they're more likely to make the world look really great. Plus, you can see at night, right? So as soon as I get mine, I'm going to talk about these things. And so are you, right? And so is everybody else on video and Twitter, and everybody's going to say, damn, I can see with these glasses on. I can read with these glasses on. And it has all these services, right? Like YouTube and Siri, Uber. And then if you don't buy them at that point, you know, right? Not to mention, I got my AirPods in my pocket. You know?
Yeah, the first devices that people wear all day on the face.
These have more computer inside of them than an iPhone 4 did. Right?
What? Really?
Yeah. There's more compute power inside these little $250 headphones than an iPhone 4 had just a few years ago. And Apple, with iOS 14, is going to turn them into spatial computers. So you can hear sounds coming from different things in your life, like your iPhone, right? Your iPhone, as I do this, the sound can follow the iPhone because it knows where the iPhone is in relationship to your ears. That's the new ultra wideband chip that is in both. And when the glasses come, it's going to know everything about the world you're in. So now the audio is, you know, my coffee cup could have sound on it and be talking to me. Right?
Yeah.
So now they're going to have to sell you AirPods and glasses. And new phone. You see why Apple's doing this? Why they're spending billions of dollars? There's a big business here.
Yeah. Because people everyone will wear it. But since you're talking about Apple, I know that in these years you really had many insights inside Apple, and you're already talking about the Apple glasses, about which are like, as you said, like a rumor each week. Every rumor is different. I also suspect that sometimes it's Apple that spreads fake news just to to confuse everyone.
They're testing them this summer in national parks. That hasn't been reported in the press. My friend saw them being tested, and there was a video crew following the guy who was testing them. So if they're testing them in public like this, they're close.
What? Are they really testing it already in public?
Yes, they're really testing it. My friend saw it at Yellowstone National Park, saw a guy wearing glasses and had a video camera following him. Now, was it Apple or was it Unreal? Was it Magic Leap? Was it somebody else? I don't know, but they're coming. They didn't have a cord. And the guy was holding products up to it and scanning products at a store and was talking to it and was taking, moving around the world, right?
Wow.
They're coming.
Yeah.
I can tell you they're coming. I don't know the day, but they're coming. So are they coming this year, next year, the year after that? It doesn't matter. They're coming. Right?
But do you have some insights about the first version? Because do you know something?
19 different. The problem is there's 19 different prototypes at Apple that I know of so far. And so which rumor is correct? Which team leaked the rumor, right? Did Tim Cook approve the leak? Did he not? I don't know. A consistent number of things that are coming out is the screen is going to be fairly low resolution, but appear high resolution, which is funny, right? The thing will definitely have a LiDAR, might not have a camera. LiDAR gives a data field of 300,000 points of data, so it can know where this table is, it can know where that coffee mug is, it can know where screen is, right? And it can start doing things with the real world, augmenting them, right? It will have a microphone or 2 or 3 or 4, right? It'll have a very small size. It starts competing with these, and it will correct your lenses. It'll have corrective lenses with the stuff that I was talking about. We'll see what comes out with the first one and how much price it is. COVID has changed their strategy, so they're changing their strategy right now. They're working hard on these things. My friend says they're working weekends. which
Okay.
Apple employees are big and fat and lazy. They don't work weekends anymore. But now they work weekends, right? Because they know that the pressure to get these on the market is pretty high. If they don't win, Facebook is coming out with the same kind of thing, right? I have a Facebook portal over there, and I'm watching what Facebook's doing with AI and with cameras. It's amazing. You're seeing it too, right? With the Oculus Quest and hand tracking is getting
Yeah.
better, right? And that's a crappy little GPU in that Quest. Wait until they put a modern GPU in the thing, right? And
Yeah.
Qualcomm is spending billions of dollars on GPUs, right? They're getting better every year, right? It's Moore's law. It's getting almost twice as fast. So
But why you and all the other people think that with Apple will be the company that is going to disrupt AR? So why it can't be Google
because
or Facebook?
because if you let's talk about food. If you tell me, Scoble, you should make some lasagna for dinner tonight.
Okay.
You have to have the ingredients to make lasagna. Otherwise, you can't make lasagna. You got to have the eggs, the flours, the tomatoes,
Yeah.
all the ingredients. Apple has all the ingredients to make the meal. They have retail store. They can show it to you. This is a very personal thing. You want to see it before you buy it. You don't want to buy it on Amazon and deliver it, right? They have $250 billion to explain it to you. They, not only that, I don't know if you've ever been to an Apple press conference, but when you go, take note of all the satellite trucks out front, right? They get more free advertising on the first day than anybody can buy. Billions of dollars of media impressions in one day because everybody cares about Apple, right? If Apple announces a pair of glasses, I guarantee you every human being in the world will hear about them. Right? At least in the modern world. All right, so that's 3 billion people will hear about it in the first day. It'll be a newspaper, TV, right? Movie stars are going to wear them. It's going to be on everybody's Instagram feed and blah, blah, blah. All for free. And then they can buy advertising on top of that. Nobody else can come. Magic Leap can't do that. Nobody knows what Magic Leap is, right? This is why I'm skeptical about Magic Leap, because even if they had a great product, they have to buy billions of dollars of advertising just to compete with what Apple gets for free, right?
Yeah.
And then you start. I've been to China and inside the supply chain, and I know Apple has the best supply chain by far. You walk into a huge warehouse where they make phones, right? Samsung phone, this phone, that Huawei. Apple phone line is better. It has more tests. It has better equipment. It has better packaging, more attention. The factory owner puts his best people on that line because his account, that Apple account, pays his money better, right? So they can make things faster and better than the other guys can, for the most part. Now, everybody's sort of caught up, Samsung and Huawei, but Apple still has better lines. I went to the Seagate hard drive factory where they made 1.1 million hard drives a week. Same hard drive. Apple had more tests on the same hard drive. Same part number. But the ones going to Apple had more tests. Why? Because they have more money.
Yeah.
And they have more attention to certain things. And they're integrated. They own the whole thing, right? They own their own chip factory now. They own their own, right? And then you start looking at content. Who can get all the books, all the movies, all the TV shows, all the music, right? Apple has it. It's really easy for Apple. They already have it. Retail store, right? Huawei or Nreal or Magic Leap has to do that from scratch. has to get all the relationships with all the movie industry and the book industry and the music industry all from scratch. Can that be done? Yeah, that can be done. It just takes money and time and somebody to to do product development, business development with that. And then you start looking at other things. You go to 7-Eleven. There's a 7-Eleven on my street, right? What do you see at the checkout counter? Apple Pay, Google Pay.
Yeah.
How's Magic Leap going to compete with that?
With the Magic Leap Pay.
Try to get every retailer to add, even if they could. Now you have to take the Apple Pay and Google Pay sticker off the damn machine and put the Apple Pay, Google Pay Magic Leap sticker. That's hard, right?
Yeah.
And oh yeah, you get the Apple Watch, you listen to the AirPods, you turn the watch, and the AirPods get louder. Ecosystem. Apple's going to have the ecosystem to make all three work together, and the phone work together. Can't do that. How does Magic Leap compete that? I don't get it.
Maybe Facebook has some chances. They wanted to make their money.
Facebook doesn't have stores. They don't have an ecosystem. They don't have a phone in my pocket, right? This is real important. This is real important. This has the 5G radio, starting this fall, we'll have the 5G radios and the GPU and the CPU and an AI chip. AI chip's real important. And an ultra wideband chip for communication. And soon, power chip for wireless power, right? By 5 years from now. This costs $1,500. The glasses cost $500. And the AirPods cost $250. How much are the glasses again? Most consumers say they're $500, but no, you had to buy the AirPods, which were $250, and you had to buy the phone, which is $1,000 and $1,500. So that's $1,750 right there. Well, now Magic Leap has to come along and say, "Oh shit, you got to replace all that with this, and this is $3,500." And everybody thinks this is $3,500 versus $500. Because they don't look at it as you have to buy the phone and the AirPods and the glasses together. They look at it, I'm going to buy the phone. Everybody knows they're going to buy a new phone in the next 3 years. Everybody. I ask everybody in my speeches, are you going to buy a phone in the next... here's the better question. Anybody who has a phone that's older than 3 years old, hold up the phone, like 2 people out of hundreds, right? Everybody has a phone that's newer than 3 years old in the audience, right? So everybody knows in the next 3 years, you're going to buy another phone, and you're going to buy new AirPods because they're getting better, and you're going to buy the glasses. But they've already priced their purchase of this into their mind. And so the glasses are $500 with Apple. With Facebook, they have to put the GPU, the radios, all the technology in here into the glasses somehow or into the cloud and make it $500 also. And then people are like, why do I want the Facebook one that steals my privacy where the Apple one doesn't steal my privacy, right? So Apple's starting to prepare the market mindset to have moats around their business so that you don't go against Apple, you don't switch ecosystem, right? So I don't see anybody but Apple. Now, if you told me Elon Musk tonight is going to announce a new pair of glasses for the Cybertruck, that still doesn't get me off of Apple. I still know I'm going to have to buy the Apple one. But now I'm buying the Tesla one too. And Elon has that ability, right? But I don't know that Elon has realized he can make glasses yet. I don't know. I figure it's going to happen soon. So.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's way of thinking.
Yeah.
Switching away from Apple
It
and
comes,
talking,
it
please.
comes, I worked in a retail store for 10 years, right? Selling cameras and refrigerators and beta and VHS tape decks and audio gear and car stereos, consumer electronics. People buy what is safe. And I'm not talking about what won't kill them. I'm talking about what they know, right? Why did VHS beat beta? I know why, because our store rented videotapes, had like 5 shelves of videotapes to rent, and almost all of them were VHS, right? So all I did was, when somebody says, why should I buy a VHS when beta is sharper? I said, look at the shelf. Do you want to rent a bunch of videotapes or not? Every store is like this. Go to Blockbuster back then and go look at their shelf. It's all VHS. Why is that? Well, you only get 1 tape for a movie instead of 2, so the retail store doesn't like that. Doesn't buy as many tapes. And the consumer went with VHS because they could record a 2-hour movie and copy it. A lot of people bought 2 of them, right? 1 to play and 1 to record, because they wanted to build their own library, their own tape back then. Right now, you just go to Netflix.
So
yeah, I mean, that's headphones. Let's say your grandson wants some headphones, right?
yeah,
Let's say you don't know anything about it. Now I know you know headphones, right? But let's say you're a normal person that has no idea what headphones are. And if you're a grandson, that means you're old. Your hearing's gone, right? You can't really hear anymore. So you go in the store and you ask the store guy, but what headphones should I buy? He's going to try to sell you the one that's most profitable, right? And you're not going to listen to that guy because you're skeptical, because you know that. So you're going to buy what you know, which is Beats. Why? Why Beats? Because Jimmy Iovine put them on all the celebrities at American Idol. And so when you watch TV, you saw everybody wearing Beats. And you go, oh, those headphones are pretty good. Again, what is the purpose of the purchase was to make the kid smile on his birthday or on Christmas Day, right? And not to take any shit from the kid. Because if the kid didn't like the brand, he would go, why are you a cheap ass? Why did you buy me this cheap ass brand when I wanted a good brand, right? Well, now you can say American Idol winners wear those. They're Beats. They're safe, right? They make you safe in your head. Same thing with Apple versus everybody else. Apple's safe. Microsoft? Not anymore. Not in consumer electronics. Not on my face. Putting something on your face is personal.
yeah,
And people are going to be very picky about it. It's fashion. You're Italian, right?
yeah.
You're the king of it, fashion. Come on.
Yeah, of course.
Right? How picky are people with what they put on their face? They're very picky about it.
A lot. We care about branding, cool design of glasses. Since when people are in the high school, so that's very important. No one will put a Google Glass in their face unless they're at home or in the studio or whatever. So
This is why my friends at Apple say they're doing more human factor testing on this product than they've ever done on any product combined. Right?
wow.
Because we're going into a new paradigm where a lot is at stake. And it's fashion. And it's how you feel about yourself wearing it, right? And the other companies just can't do that kind of stuff. It just, and doesn't have the 30-year history to call upon, right? And that's why I'm a pro Apple. I wish Apple had a competitor, and they will, right? Apple had 100% of the touchscreen phone sales for 2-3 years. They had the market to themselves on the first iPhone, right? And then Android came along and a competitor came along. A competitor will come and probably will be Chinese, right? But it'll be a year, 2, 3 before we see a real competitor. And Magic Leap was trying to play for that. I just don't know that Magic Leap is going to be around very much longer. So I think they're going to get bought or not be able to last. You know, it takes many billions of dollars. I mean, they've burned through $3 billion, but if they had 10, I'd say, okay, they're going to get it. But who's going to give them another $7 billion at this point?
No one, I guess. At this point, no one.
Not unless they change belief, right? And I hope the new CEO has some secret up her sleeve, but I don't see it. I'm skeptical, right?
I'm pretty skeptical as well.
There's fewer and fewer words left in the book of Magic Leap before the end, and I hope they pull something out. But I think the competitor is Facebook and possibly Google. And then we'll see what Amazon and Tesla do, because Amazon and Tesla won't be together, but those are the two upstarts. Those are the companies that could come from nowhere and really be a interesting competitor in this new world.
Yeah. And talking about Facebook instead, since it is probably one of the most credible competitors of Apple, we've seen all the rumors about the new Quest. You already started talking about it. I want to ask you what are all the rumors that you heard from your sources about the new Quest? Because it seems like a refresh, no, not a new Quest, like a side Quest. So, what have you heard about it?
Look inside and not at the box.
Okay. And what is inside?
Better screens, 4K screens instead of 1K screens, and better GPU, lighter weight, better cameras, and probably a higher price. I've seen a lot of people in the community say, oh, no, they're going to go after the Go area. No. The old Quest is going to drop in price, and the new Quest is going to be $600. Oh, faster refresh rate, too. 90 to 120 settable in software. They're still arguing which is going to be the default because it has battery and heat connotations, right? But you probably will be able to change in software and go to 120 if you want. Particularly good if you hook up to a GPU, right? A big GPU.
So do you think that we're going to cost it is going to cost $600 more or less? So
yeah, instead of $400, it's going to be more expensive than the old Quest, but the old Quest might come down in price by $100, $200, $100. That's my expectation. We'll see.
Yeah.
Because I don't see a market need for a cheaper product. The resistance I'm hearing from all sorts of people is not about price. They don't care about $100. They care about usability, which is sharpness. I can't read text. I can't sell it to a lot of people because I can't read text. I run big screen on this big PC with a big NVIDIA card, and it works. It's great. You get a big virtual screen, but you can't read the text. So I can't use it for work. And I can't really use it for media. Like, and this is really interesting. If you put a movie in the Quest, you get a big screen, right?
Yes.
Wrap around, like you can watch Jaws on this big ass screen, right? But the visual acuity, because it's a 1K screen each eye, you get this screen door effect. And I far prefer to watch a movie on my 1K TV.
Yes.
Which is not intuitive because the screen's bigger in VR. And next year, I'm expecting to watch a movie in VR and have it better than my 1K TV, which is real important for business travelers who want to watch movies. It's important for families. Like when I'm watching an adult movie and the kids want to watch SpongeBob, I'd love them, have the TV. I'll just put on VR and watch a movie in VR with my headphones, right? And we both are happy. They can watch SpongeBob. I can watch my my violent movie, right? Fast and Furious or something, right? And the kids are happy. I'm happy, and my wife wants to watch a French movie with subtitles, so she can put it on and watch a movie. But none of us can do that right now because watching a movie in VR doesn't. It's not as nice as watching the 1K TV. So we fight over the TV.
Yeah. So okay. So let's see what will happen. Probably it will launch like in September the 15th. So we will discover if your predictions are correct, or how much, and what is the real strategy of Facebook. So we are all very
They're
curious.
trying to get it in the market by Christmas. You'll get it for Christmas morning if they ship a few. The rumors are it's going to be tough to get by Christmas.
Okay.
Because the supply chains are still fairly difficult to work with. I mean, Americans can't fly to China right now, right?
Yeah.
So now we have to do all the design work over FedEx and Zoom calls and VR, right? The meetings are all happening in VR. We'll see. We'll see when. I'm thinking it's next spring, but they're trying to get it out by Christmas. It'll be interesting to see if they can get it by Christmas, but I'm expecting next spring. So now I'm like, I have an order for the HP one, right? Which has 4K screen, right?
Yes.
And I'll hook it up here in my NVIDIA card and play. But I want the Quest because I don't like cords. I can't play this downstairs on my, where I want to watch a movie on my couch. My wife won't let the big PC go down by the couch, which is back in the 80s when I sold the refrigerators, we used to have a term called the wife test, right? Does the wife approve of this one? Yeah. Then you can buy it, right? I sold a lot of telescopes using the wife test. Now I'm the wife, but she has control of the downstairs, which is very funny. But yeah, people don't want an ugly thing in their living room, a big PC, right? And Quest is self-contained, so you can watch a movie in the Quest and watch it anywhere. And like when I fly to speech or something, I can watch a movie on the Quest. Yeah. There's more. Where I'm going is there's more market need for a higher end Quest than a lower end Quest. People who say, "Oh, that's gonna be a cheap Quest," based on how it looks physically, because it's white plastic, which that makes you think of a cheap device, which is sort of funny because iPod was white, but it makes you think of cheap. It's not about how it looks; it's about what's inside that's gonna get people's attention, right?
Cool. But talking about instead, you live in the Silicon Valley. You've seen also Silicon Valley coming to life. Last year, before the lockdown started, you made a tour of many companies, many startups. So after we talk about Facebook, about Apple, we all know that they're
I
super
still am
cool.
touring. I just visited a startup
cool.
last week. Had my mask on,
So your never-ending tour. So what are the most interesting startups that you have seen, and what are the technologies that have really impressed you in the last year?
I'm playing a lot of exercise, and what I'm looking for is use cases. Exercise in VR is a big new use case, particularly with COVID, because you can't go to the gym. You're scared of going out on a hiking trail, right? I'm even scared of riding my bike, and here's why. If I fall and I break my arm, I have to go to the hospital. And nobody in my family is allowed to go to the hospital with me. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm doing things that aren't so risky, particularly kids. I don't want, imagine my kid falls and gets a broken arm, has to go in the hospital, screaming his head off because of pain. And I can't go in with him because of COVID. I'm very scared of that, right? I don't want to do that. So now home exercise is taking off. Peloton has a system where you can ride a bike and get a beautiful video, and it makes exercising fun. Well, with your $400 Quest and a program like Supernatural from within, you get exercise, you have a coach, and I'm working out every day in Supernatural. It's fun. Costs $20 a month. It's fairly affordable. And it's like Beat Saber done right for exercising. And they have different programs which are high intensity, a lot of workout. And you're wearing your Apple Watch, and it shows it pulls the heart rate into the program too, so it keeps track of where you are. Really, really well done. So there's that. I'm watching music a lot because now we can't go to music festivals. Some of the industry is saying music festivals won't come back until 2022. And we still don't know when the virus is going to be done, right? So they're sort of guessing at 2022, right?
Yeah.
And you did the John
Michel Jarre.
Yeah, that was cool.
Thank you.
You're in a room with other people dancing. It feels like Coachella, but I didn't need to leave my room. I was joining from here, right? I didn't need to travel. I didn't need to buy a hotel, right? And I get to hear great music and feel like I'm there at a concert. I think that's a big deal. So there's The Wave is doing this. Altspace VR has Reggie Watts occasionally doing concerts. That was pretty fun. And then I've been watching a lot of music festivals because my wife is in the conference business, so I'm watching what innovations are happening on Twitch and on YouTube for that. And EDM, I went to the EDC and watched what they did with streaming video, stuff like that. So I think The Wave is going to be interesting. I think Supernatural is going to be interesting. If I was an investor, I'd be looking at the exercise space. The problem is the headset sales, right? But my prediction is next year headset sales are going to start going up, right? Maybe not to the 10 million mark, but they're going to go up. And in 2022, they're going to go and hit the 10 million mark. So that's when investors start getting interested, when the sales start going up. And the sales will go up because the utility is coming, right? Watching a music festival in 1K, it was fun. But wait until you watch it in 4K.
Yeah.
It'll look beautiful. It'll look beautiful because you were doing all sorts of really interesting lighting effects, and it looked like you would,
3D objects moving, reflections.
It's badass, right?
Yeah.
And NVIDIA has a new GPU coming out soon, right?
Yes.
So you start thinking about more polygons per second, more resolution. In 2022, that's going to be pretty fucking badass, right? And the speakers are getting better in the headsets, right? So the sound is getting better. Everything's getting better. Consumers eventually are going to realize this is good, right? And when Apple comes out with glasses, it also is going to wake up the market and get people to realize, oh, there's something going on in this space again. And excitement's going to come back. You watch excitement next summer, going to be much better than right now. Right now, people are really like, I'm watching Twitter sentiment on 5,000 people in this space. It's hard to get excited.
Yes.
Right? It's hard to get excited because it's not growing really fast, and there's no new product to talk about, right? It's hard to get excited. But
next year.
Hold on. Next year is coming. It's coming. I guarantee you it's coming. The excitement's coming again. it's going to take a couple new products. I think next year will be it. Then I'm watching education, like Nanome lets you walk around chemistry structures, and there's a few things there. I'm watching training. Striver is the #1 company, but there's a whole range of companies that are doing corporate training mostly in VR, because it's better to do VR training than to do training on a 2D screen for a whole lot of reasons, particularly as the training industry gets more towards simulation, where you can actually act like you're on the factory floor or in the retail store handling customer. Then they can really see how you react to something and fix a problem. Where watching, a training video on a 2D screen, you just don't get that kind of interaction and the ability to build muscle memory for actually doing a job. So Striver's one. Gaming, I'm not a big gamer. I watch it so I know what people are talking about, and I played a little bit of Half-Life Alyx. My son played the whole game, so I watched him. And my son's much more into that. My son's really into social VR, so social VR is going to be real interesting. We're waiting to see what Facebook does with Horizon and how useful that is. But I'm playing with Somnium Space is real interesting. Rec Room is my son's place. He hangs out there every day. And AltSpace VR from Microsoft. So there's a group of products going at it in that space. And that's going to be a big space, particularly as Facebook gets into it. And what else? There's,
And from the hardware side, I don't know, companies like Cura, what is...
They're coming next year. The problem is they don't have any of the ingredients to make the meal. So do they have an interesting lens optic? Yeah, probably. Are they going to compete with, an Apple? No. And, do I buy a pair? Questionable. I have a limited budget. I can only spend so many thousand per year on gadgets. I'm not a billionaire. I can't just buy everything because, I have to choose a few gadgets a year what I'm going to buy, right? And Quest 2, hell yeah, I'm in. So that's $600, $700 gone, right? If I'm holding 1,000 for Apple, right? Because I'm expecting that in the next 24 months.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to buy a new phone, a new AirPod, and a new pair of glasses.
So it's 2,000, not one.
That's 2,000 to 3,000, maybe even more, right? I'm hearing Apple even has a pair of glasses. One of the prototypes could sell for $2,000, just the glasses, right? So, which has 7 cameras like a Magic Leap. But I think they're going toward the lower end first. So yeah, there's $2,500 there. Sony PlayStation is supposed to come out with VR later this year, and I hear it's a wireless headset that's pretty nice. So, do I buy a new PlayStation for the kids? I don't know. That's another $500 plus $500 for the headset. That's $1,000. So, do I have money left for a Kura or a Vuzix or a Niantic or whoever else is going to come along? Digital lens? No, it's really hard, right? So now we're back to the enterprise argument. If I had a client who needed a very specific thing, that might be where I go with Kura, right? And we'll see what their specific thing is that they do that nobody else does. I hear they're pretty nice lenses, but lenses aren't enough anymore. Coming into this new world, just having good lenses ain't it.
So is that what
you have the whole to make lasagna? You have to have all the pieces, all the
So, but is there a startup about new technology that really has blown your mind in the last 6-12 months?
The ones that are blowing my mind are in the AI space. like Chooch is a pretty interesting one. There's a whole range. I just saw one today that Brian Rommel shared, which is doing AI-based voices that are very natural. That was pretty interesting. But mind-blowing, I'm looking for something that is like an Uber or a Siri,
Yes.
something that is strategic. I mean, I'd love to have a piece of Cloudhead Games who makes a Pistol Whip. I love
Yes.
Pistol Whip, right? That's a nice game. Or I'd love to have a little piece of Beat Saber. Tit for Tat is a good investor. He invests in all these little companies. If I was an investor, I would be looking for something really strategic, and I haven't yet seen it. And I think you're going to see it over the next 24 months. Spatial, for instance, is one that is on the right dartboard. I'm not sure that it's the right execution.
Yes.
But something that does 3D working with other people, very important. And I want to see what Facebook does and Microsoft does first before I say that, Spatial actually has a chance. So I'm watching that space very closely. Education is still going to be really tough to make money in. I'm very interested in education because now I'm a school teacher of my kids, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking for things to put on our VR headset or on our HoloLens that'll let me teach them. But that's a really tough space to make money in for a lot of reasons. Yeah, I don't know. There's 1,800 companies. A few will be interesting. I just haven't seen anything that comes up to the place of Siri yet in terms of a strategic, important company. I'm looking.
Okay, I'm talking about the other side of the world. So now there is this Cold War between US and China. I have friends in both countries, so this makes me a bit sad. But that's politics.
Yeah.
So China is trying to innovate with the Shenzhen area. America, the United States has the Silicon Valley. So do you think how is going to do this competition in technology between these two big giants? Because China has the money, the US seems to have still more innovation, China probably more execution. So how do you see this evolving?
Don't bet against China not being innovative. I've been going to China since '95, and I understand why that belief is there. That in '95 it didn't look innovative at all. It was a very gray country. Everybody stayed in place. Nobody stood out. Now the country is completely different, right? And the scale of their internal market is big enough that they can build startups and companies that don't even come outside of China. Tencent, right? How many people use WeChat around the world? Only if you have Chinese. I do because I have Chinese friends, right? But if you don't have Chinese friends, you don't use WeChat, right?
Yes.
But if you're in China, and even you and I, we use it to talk to Chinese friends, but we don't use it at 7-Eleven. If you're in China, you use it for everything.
Yes.
All purchases, all social media, all news, right? It comes through WeChat, right? All e-commerce, you buy everything, right? It's like Amazon plus Facebook plus Apple together in one thing, right? And so Americans don't know about the innovations happening there. And they see the negatives of the surveillance society, and they don't understand the data advantages of having everybody do a facial recognition, right? They're going ahead on AI, and Kai-Fu Lee has a whole book on how China has taken over on AI because of their data advantages. And that's interesting to watch. I mean, this is why I'm so bullish on Tesla, and Tesla is doing real well in China. So it'll be interesting to watch this geopolitics play out and the technology play out. I think Apple has one last great product with the glasses. We'll see if that's true. And and that might keep them in the AI game for a bit, but they better watch out because the Chinese are coming and coming with a product that's less money and more capable. Yeah.
Yeah, like Huawei has done for smartphones. In the beginning, they were shitty. Then they started to become super cool phones, costing less than Samsung and Apple. And then now US is trying to boycott Huawei, of course, because politics.
Huawei is dangerous to America.
Yeah.
Huawei owns 50% of the cell phone towers around the world, right? And they were coming in. Most of those towers are in places like Afghanistan or Vietnam or Africa, right? Places Americans don't care about, right? But they were coming into the Western world, into Europe, into UK, into America. And when you have a cell phone tower, you have a fiber line coming to the tower, and they would have first tap on the tower, i.e. they could listen to it. And that was very dangerous for intelligence, right? And for planning out your geopolitical economic moves. And Americans like to be the first tap. We're used to that. We've had the first tap for a long time. And now Huawei was threatening that. And so America's like, no Huawei. I think it's a temporary problem because I think they're going to keep coming. And they're going to keep coming with technology and innovation because they're spending the money in R&D. And they're training their kids. And they have such a huge population of people, right? For every one PhD America can raise, China has 2 to 3, right?
Yeah.
And if you think Chinese kids aren't just as smart as American kids, you're stupid. You know, you're not rational, right? So the economic system of China is primed to take over now. You know, which is something I've predicted for 20 years. It's like back in '95, it's like, oh, this country's gonna rock. And they have. They've done everything they showed me they were going to do, right? And now it's a real problem for America. Yeah, jobs are a real problem for America. This is going to be a real problem.
Yeah,
I don't know how we're going to fix that. I know how we're going to fix it once augmented reality glasses come, but that's not soon. 5 years, 7 years before I can get a truck driver into a pair of Apple glasses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna be a while.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So another thing that I want to ask you is, so since you've met so many people in Silicon Valley, so Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, so there will be so many things to do, but to say it about it. But do you have some particular episode that you want to talk about your life? Maybe something funny about some of these important people. One of your favorite one.
They're important because they can convince other people to join their companies and build products with them, right? Their power comes from other people, right? And we forget about the other people, right?
Yeah.
And I like studying both. I like knowing the janitor and the engineer and the management. Elon's my favorite right now because he's thinking strategically about the world that's like 15 years away, right? And I'm thinking about writing a new book called the billion dollar fuck ups of Silicon Valley, right? When companies do things that turn into multi-billion-dollar mistakes, right? And my favorite one, if I do this book, it'll start out with this story. Do you know how Microsoft won the IBM account? Because back in 80-ish, right? Apple had the personal computer, Nobody thought a personal computer was going to be anything. That's why Apple had to start his company. HP and all the companies thought personal computer was stupid. And Apple proved that there was a market. And IBM is like the big old computer company and going, oh shit, we're being disrupted. We need to get a product out on the market. Otherwise we're going to go away because the world is going personal. And so they started a skunkworks project in Florida to build a personal computer, but they didn't have any pieces. IBM was a mainframe computer, right? So their processors, their drives, all the pieces were made from big computers at retail stores and banks and military. And so Apple comes along with this little box. And so they built the IBM PC on openly available components, right? And they could go to Fry's just like every other person could and go buy a CPU and buy some RAM and buy the pieces, a motherboard, and build it. But they didn't have an operating system to run it. And so they needed one. So they went to Bill Gates, who back then built BASIC compiler, right? Microsoft's first product was BASIC. That's why I worked at Basic Pro magazine, and that's why I got a job at Microsoft, because I understood Microsoft better than most people, right? And Bill told them twice to go down and see Gary Kildall in Pacific Grove, California, near Monterey, California, because he ran DRI, Digital Research Institute. And he had the #1 OS of the day called CPM. And they fucked up the deal. They couldn't make a deal with IBM. And twice IBM went back to Bill and said, these guys are not dealing with me. They're not willing to sign a deal with us. So either you solve it or we'll solve it. We'll figure it out. And Bill's smart enough to know this is IBM. He better solve the problem because there's business opportunity, right? So he found a copy of CPM at a Seattle computer store called Seattle Computer Works and bought a copy from Tim Patterson for $50,000, right? And it was a complete copy of CPM, almost, and rewrote it and made it DOS. Bill Gates' brilliance was his dad was a lawyer and helped him on the contract so that he could sell DOS to other companies. Now, go back to CPM or DRI. The CTO walked me around the house where IBM came and told me the story. And I've heard all these stories like, oh, Gary Kildall was flying his plane that day, or didn't even want to meet with him. I said, tell me the truth. What actually went on here? What happened? He goes, no. None of those stories are really true. We met with him. We took him very seriously. It was a big deal. But we were selling CPM to thousands of customers for $1,000 a piece, and they wanted to pay $25 for it. And we couldn't change our mindset and fire all of our customers and say, customers, we're ending business selling you $1,000 CPM thing because we're going to go after this IBM thing for $25 because they didn't have the other piece of it, which was they were going to sell the copy to everybody, which made Bill Gates billions of dollars, right? Eventually. Back in 79, that didn't seem like it was possible, right? And so they had to send the IBM team away and say, we can't do business with you. We can't sell you a product that we're selling for $1,000 for $25. It's not going to happen. And I'm seeing that happen in a range of things. Existing customers are like a noose around your neck and keep you from getting into the future. And Tesla is a good example of this. Tesla has the only car that doesn't have any knobs on the dash. Ford can't do that. I asked Ford, why aren't you doing this? And they said, go ask our customers. They want knobs. And I did. I sat in the hot tub with a Kansas farmer. And I asked him, I said, would you buy a truck with a screen in it and no knobs? He's like, fuck no, I hate computers. I don't want to touch a screen. I want to feel the knobs. I mean, you talk to a Porsche or a Ferrari owner, right?
Yeah.
Ferrari owners love their knobs. They love how they feel. And the engineers at Ferrari spend a lot of time making those knobs feel a certain way, right? Click a certain way, and right? And Tesla comes along and goes, no knobs. Yeah, it's a computer, dude. Get over it. It's the future. And he puts cameras in the car with an NVIDIA card. Now it's an AI chip. How many auto manufacturers have an AI division? Does Ferrari have an AI division yet? No.
Nah.
Does Ferrari have an electric engine division? Maybe. Maybe if they're smart, because they know electric engine. I guarantee you, I pull up next to a Ferrari and I kill the Ferrari. It didn't used to be the case. The reason Ferrari is a Ferrari is it always went faster than everything else. Well, that's not true anymore. My Tesla goes faster than a Ferrari does. I raced Ferraris and I killed them. So if you just spend $200,000 on a brand new Ferrari, you feel like you're inadequate all of a sudden, right? That didn't used to be the case in the 70s. A Ferrari would always win the race, right? And he forces you to use the phone as the key. A lot of people don't want to do that, right? Existing customers are a noose. And so I study that too. I study why companies go bad, why people make mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes.
So one of the questions that I always ask is, since you have lots of experience, so what is the lesson, apart from this one that you just said, that you want to give to other people that maybe want to enter the technology world, maybe as entrepreneurs or whatever, as journalists? So you choose someone to teach you a lesson that was important for you.
Pick good friends.
Sorry?
Pick good friends. Your friends will either get you into a lot of trouble and destroy your career, or will get you to go to college and pick the right degree. My dad went to college because he picked the right friends, right? And took us out of poverty and to where I'm in Silicon Valley. You see so many jobs, so many career companies. I mean, a lot of the Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, they got lucky because of the friends they were with, right? And if Steve Jobs didn't hook up with Woz, who knew how to build a computer and was crazy, he wouldn't be Steve Jobs. He might be something else, but it was just the accidental friendship that led to the company, right? And led to his success. He's probably still would be successful, but doing something else maybe. I don't know. Having the right friends will get you into the right industries. I mean, going to San Jose State, I got my first job because of a friendship with the editor who got me this job at this computer programming magazine nobody had ever heard of, right? So your friends will drag you into good things or bad things, or sometimes both, which makes them really interesting friends.
The best ones.
Stories at the end of your life,
So I think that I will have lots of other questions to ask you, and maybe we'll leave them for another time. So just my last question.
Love talking to you.
Yeah,
you're watching. I mean, one other tip is to do what you're doing. Pick something that will be interesting someday and cover it and be around it and build for it, right? If you're building for VR today, there's so many engineers, they're not making much money, most of them, right? there was just a big thread on Twitter about jobs in the XR space. Most people are in this space. They're not making very much money. I can't think of a billionaire yet that's been made out of this space, right? The money hasn't started flowing. That won't be true 5 years from now, right? So if you pick this space or a space like autonomous cars or computer vision or 3D sensor or AI, those spaces are going to grow over importance over time, at least for the next decade, right? And so if you build in one of those spaces or cover the space as a journalist or an interesting person, you're going to grow along with the space. The space is going to get bigger and bigger and more people, and they're all going to look at you because you're in the middle of it, right? My old boss at the retail store picked San Jose, California to put a retail store for that reason. He said, oh, which city is up and coming? Let's move there. And when he moved there, it was the 70s, right? Yeah. And Silicon Valley was still young, right? Still mostly farms. And so he built a little consumer store and worked for 20 years, right? Then big, Best Buy moved in and killed it. But you got to keep innovating and keep ahead of the bigger thing that comes in. But, for 20 years, it was a good thing. Kept 4 families, afloat.
So that's a good advice. I want to ask you if there is anything else that you want to add to this chat before finishing it. So just some very last
it's going to be the next 24 months are going to be really interesting. You're going to have lots of guests on who are going to have a lot of things to say because new product after new product is coming. And with product, a lot of new software is coming, right? New games, new education, new transportation, all sorts of new things, right? So, yeah, it'll be fun to talk every once in a while.
Yeah, we will talk again about the news and these new products that will come out. So, Robert, thanks for your time, also because you said really a lot and said lots of interesting info. I think this night I will have to digest them a bit. There are also some questions in the chat, but I think there's no time now. Probably we can read from YouTube. So thanks for everything.
Or send them to me on Twitter, and I'll take them on.
Okay.
I'm watching Twitter a little bit, so.
So thanks for everything. I wish you a wonderful night. Thanks also to the people that are watching the stream and staying so long. I guess you have fun like with me. Have a nice VR, everyone. Okay, so the stream has ended.